There is a moment in Season 1 where Zuko sits alone in his cabin on the ship that has been his home since he was 13 years old, and the camera holds on his face for several seconds longer than a children's cartoon is supposed to hold on a face. He is not crying. He is not angry. He is not planning. He is just sitting. The lamp on his desk is lit. His hair is pulled back in a tight top knot. The specific top knot of a Fire Nation prince, which he has kept even in exile, which he has maintained through every storm and every defeat. Because the top knot is one of the few things he has left of the identity he is trying to preserve. And the camera watches him. And what you see, if you are watching carefully, is a boy who does not know who he is. He has been told who he is by everyone around him. He's been told he is a failure by his father, a brother by his sister, a cause for concern by his uncle, a target by the rest of the world. But he himself, at this moment, alone in his cabin, has no idea what he is. He is 16 years old. He has been chasing a 12-year-old across the world for 3 months. His quest is the shape of his life, and the shape is all he has. This is where the redemption arc begins. Not with a decision, not with a moment of clarity, just with an alone boy in an alone room, carrying a weight he cannot put down, wearing his father's face on the burned side of his head, moving through the world like someone who has not been told he is allowed to stop. What this video is about is the complete story of how a 16-year-old Fire Nation prince, the son of the most powerful man in the world, the heir to a century of imperial brutality, becomes someone else. Not because he wants to, not because the show wants him to, because the specific combination of pressures he endures and the specific presence of his uncle and the specific nature of his own soul makes it impossible for him to remain the person he was. Zuko's redemption arc is one of the most studied character arcs in television history. It is taught in film classes. It is referenced by other shows. It is the model for countless subsequent redemption stories. And what makes it work is not that it is fast, or easy, or satisfying in the way such stories usually are. What makes it work is that it is slow, and hard, and honest about what redemption actually is. Welcome to Ember. You are going to want to stay for this one. This one goes deep. Let us get into it. Zuko is introduced in the first episode of the show, The Boy in the Iceberg, which aired on February 21st, 2005. His first appearance is framed to make him look like a straightforward antagonist. He is on a Fire Nation ship. He sees the light from Aang's awakening in the South Pole. He commands his crew to investigate. He is harsh. He is demanding. He is dressed in red and black armour. He has a burn on the left side of his face that he has clearly earned through violence. He barks orders, he yells at his uncle, and when the first episode ends, he is heading toward the South Pole with clear intent to capture the Avatar. He is, on every visual and narrative level, a villain. This is deliberate. The show is starting him at maximum antagonism, so that the descent, the slow reveal of who he actually is, can have maximum effect. Because by the third episode, The Southern Air Temple, which aired on February the 25th, 2005, we start to see cracks. Iroh is shown drinking tea and being gentle. Zuko is shown rejecting Iroh's gentleness, aggressively, but also caring whether Iroh is following him. The dynamic between them is not the dynamic of an evil master and his hapless assistant. It is the dynamic of a nephew who is, somewhere deep under his armour, a boy who loves his uncle and does not know how to show it. By the 8th episode, Winter Solstice Part 2, which aired on April 15th, 2005, the show has begun to humanise Zuko in specific ways. He is shown competing with Admiral Zhao, a Fire Nation military figure who outranks him and who is vying for the Avatar capture. Zhao is introduced as a foil. Zhao is what Zuko would be if Zuko had never met his uncle. Zhao is cruel, arrogant, efficient, and entirely aligned with Fire Nation ideology. He does not struggle. He does not doubt. He is who he is, and who he is awful. And the show places him next to Zuko specifically to show you in contrast that Zuko is not Zhao. Zuko is something else. Zuko is a person whose cruelty is performance, whose arrogance is defense, whose aggression is a way of coping with a life that has given him nothing gentle to hold on to. Zuko has an Agni Kai with Zhao. An Agni Kai is a ritual Fire Nation duel, the same kind of duel in which Zuko was burned by his father. The setting of this duel, therefore, is loaded. Zuko is choosing, voluntarily, to enter a ritual that has traumatized him. He does this because Zhao has insulted him, and because Zuko's sense of self is so fragile that any insult must be answered. But as the duel progresses, you see Zuko fight differently than you would expect. He is not a brawler. He is calculated. He is patient. He waits for Zhao to overcommit. And when Zhao overcommits, Zuko wins. He does not kill Zhao, though. He walks away. Zhao, furious, tries to attack Zuko from behind. Iroh intercepts the attack. Iroh tells Zhao, with quiet steel, that Zhao is beneath himself to attack an opponent who has already shown mercy. This scene is worth pausing on, because Zuko has just done two things that a Fire Nation prince should not have done. He has shown mercy, and he has walked away. The Fire Nation, as an ideological culture, values ruthless efficiency. Mercy is weakness. Walking away from an opponent you have defeated is an invitation for future disrespect. Zuko has broken both of these cultural codes, instinctively, because he does not actually want to kill Zhao. He wants to win. He wants to prove he is not a failure, but he does not want to kill. And this small detail, played quietly in an early first season episode, is the first clue the show gives you that Zuko is not who he is pretending to be. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. The Blue Spirit is the 13th episode of the first season. It aired on June 17th, 2005. It is one of the most formally interesting episodes in the early run of the show. The episode is about Aang being captured by Fire Nation soldiers, and the Avatar is broken out of his cell by a masked figure in a blue theatrical mask. The figure does not speak. The figure fights silently. The figure is skilled with dual swords, and Aang, unconscious for most of the rescue, does not know who it is. The two of them escape together, pursued by Fire Nation soldiers. At a critical moment, the masked figure is hit by an arrow. The figure collapses. Aang unmasks him, and the figure is Zuko. The show holds on this moment. A masked Fire Nation prince lying on the forest floor, unconscious, with a boy who is supposed to be his enemy kneeling over him. And Aang does not kill him. Aang does not even take him prisoner. Aang sits there, looking at him, and remembers that Zuko long ago was his age. Aang asks him, when Zuko wakes up, if they could have been friends in a different time. Zuko's response is to shoot fire at him. Aang escapes, and the scene ends with Zuko, alone in the forest, looking at the mask he wore, not knowing what to do with any of it. This is the first moment where the show explicitly links Aang and Zuko in a way that suggests their destinies are connected. The question Aang asks about whether they could have been friends is not rhetorical. The show is asking it on his behalf. Could these two boys in a different life have been friends? The answer is yes. Obviously yes. They are roughly the same age. They are both alone. They are both carrying enormous weights that no child should carry. They are both, in some sense, victims of the same war. But the war has put them on opposite sides. And being on opposite sides is the thing that makes friendship impossible. For now. But the question hangs in the air. It does not go away. The show will return to it over and over across the next 2 seasons, in different forms. Every time Aang and Zuko are alone together, the question is there. Could we have been friends? Could we be friends now? What would it take? And the eventual answer, which the show takes 3 years to deliver, is that they can be friends. They become friends. They become some of the closest friends in the show, but the friendship requires Zuko to make a specific decision that he is not ready to make for most of the series. And the decision is, eventually, what his redemption arc turns on. The second season begins with Zuko and Iroh exiled from the Fire Nation. This is new. In the first season, Zuko was exiled from his home, but he was still a Fire Nation prince. He had a ship. He had a crew. He had a mission sanctioned by his father, however impossible. At the start of the second season, all of this is revoked. Azulon, his grandfather, had originally sanctioned the hunt. But after the events of the first season finale, The Fire Nation's position on Zuko has shifted. His sister Azula is sent to capture him and his uncle. His status as a prince is no longer protective. He is now, effectively, a fugitive. This changes everything for Zuko. In the first season, he was working within the Fire Nation system. He was trying to earn his way back into it. In the second season, he is outside the system entirely. He cannot go home. He cannot even pretend he is close to going home. The quest for the Avatar, which structured his entire identity in the first season, is no longer a legitimate path back. The Avatar is not the key to his reinstatement. Nothing is. He is, for the first time in his life, truly on his own. The second season uses this new status to deepen Zuko. It takes him through the Earth Kingdom as a refugee. He and Iroh wander. They are poor. They beg. They work odd jobs. They are frequently hungry. And during this wandering, Zuko begins to encounter Earth Kingdom civilians in a way he never has before. He has always understood the Earth Kingdom as an abstraction, an enemy nation, a collection of territories to be conquered. In the second season, the Earth Kingdom becomes concrete. It becomes individual people in specific villages with specific lives. And Zuko, trying to survive, has to interact with these people on their own terms. Zuko Alone, which aired on May 12, 2006, is the episode that consolidates this shift. Zuko, separated from Iroh, arrives in a small Earth Kingdom village. The village is suffering under the oppression of local Earth Kingdom soldiers who have appointed themselves as the village's rulers in a period of post-war instability. A young boy in the village approaches Zuko. The boy is small, friendly, curious about this stranger. Zuko tries to push him away. The boy does not push. Zuko ends up staying with the boy's family, in their barn, eating their food, training the boy in basic swordplay. The boy's older brother has been conscripted into the Earth Kingdom army. The family is broken by the absence. And Zuko, despite himself, despite his training, despite his Fire Nation identity, finds himself caring about these people. He protects them. He defends them when the corrupt soldiers come to harass the village. He fights, he wins, he saves the village. And then in the moment of his triumph, he reveals his identity in a moment of pride. He is the Blue Spirit, he says. He is Prince Zuko of the Fire Nation. And the villagers, who have been shaped by 100 years of war, turn on him immediately. They reject him. They tell him to leave. The boy's mother, who had been kind to him, looks at him with disgust. The boy himself looks at him with betrayal. And Zuko walks out of the village, alone, in the rain, having spent an entire episode trying to be something he is not. This episode is a tragedy, and it is pivotal, because Zuko, for the first time, has experienced what it feels like to be good. He has saved people. He has protected the vulnerable. He has used his skills in service of something other than his own ambition. And the feeling of it, momentary though it was, is something his soul now remembers. The experience is planted in him. It cannot be unplanted. Even when the Earth Kingdom villagers reject him and he returns to his Fire Nation identity, some part of him now knows that there is another way to live. And the show will keep reminding him of that knowledge in different forms for the next season and a half until he finally decides to act on it. The show does not rush this. The show lets Zuko sit with the experience of being good for a few episodes and then go back to being conflicted. He returns to Iroh. He continues to struggle. He continues to want the Fire Nation's acceptance. He continues to pursue his old goals. But the seed has been planted, and the show is patient enough to let the seed germinate at its own pace. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. The middle of the second season finds Zuko and Iroh settling into Ba Sing Se. They arrive as refugees. They establish new identities. Zuko becomes Lee. Iroh becomes Mushi. They work in a tea shop, where Iroh eventually takes over and improves the quality of the tea. Zuko serves tables. He hates it. He is bad at it. He is sullen and mean to customers and almost gets them fired multiple times. But he also, grudgingly, starts to learn the rhythms of normal life. He has never worked a job before. He has never served anybody before. other than his father. He has never been a nobody, and the experience of being a nobody in the middle of the largest city in the Earth Kingdom, surrounded by normal people living normal lives, is disorienting for him in a specific and important way. He begins a tentative relationship with a girl named Jin. She works at a nearby shop. She's kind to him. She invites him on a date. He goes awkwardly because Iroh has pressured him into it. And the date is, in its own way, one of the most important scenes in his entire arc, because Jin is not a Fire Nation girl. She is an Earth Kingdom girl. She does not know who he is. She just sees him as a strange, quiet refugee who works at the tea shop. And she likes him. She finds him interesting. She wants to get to know him. Zuko, who has never been liked by anyone who did not have strategic reason to like him, does not know how to process this. He panics. He ends the date early. He gives her an awkward gift. And then he goes home and tries to forget the whole thing happened. But it stays with him, because it is the first time in his life that someone has chosen to spend time with him without any agenda. And the memory of that, once experienced, cannot be unremembered. The Jin scene is small. It is maybe 10 minutes of total screen time across one episode. But it is a turning point, because it shows Zuko what it is like to be seen as a person, not as a symbol, not as a prince, not as a threat. And this is the experience his arc has been building toward, in different forms. Zuko alone showed him what it was like to serve others. Jin shows him what it is like to be received by someone else without pretense. And both experiences are teaching him, slowly, that his previous life, the one built entirely around his father's approval, was missing something fundamental. There is a way to be in the world that does not require performance. There is a way to be liked that does not require conquest. He is starting, without yet knowing it, to believe that these other ways of being might actually be available to him. But the show is also honest about how fragile this progress is. At the end of the second season, when Azula arrives in Ba Sing Se and makes Zuko the offer that changes everything, Zuko falls back. He chooses his father. He chooses the Fire Nation. He chooses the old path. The Crossroads of Destiny, which aired on December 1st, 2006, is the episode that forces the choice. And Zuko, in the caves beneath Ba Sing Se, with Katara on one side and Azula on the other, and Iroh's voice still in his ears from a conversation earlier that day, makes the wrong choice. He chooses Azula. He chooses to believe that his father will finally love him if he brings home the Avatar. He shoots Aang in the back with his sister's help, and he goes home. This is the lowest moment of his arc. It is, in fact, the lowest moment in the entire show. Not because Zuko has done something evil, although he has, but because he has specifically abandoned the part of himself that had been growing. The part of him that had been learning to serve. The part of him that had been opening up to connection. The part of him that had been, however slowly, becoming a better person. He has chosen to abandon all of that growth and return to the identity that has been making him miserable for 3 years. And the show wants you to feel this as the disaster it is, not just in terms of plot consequences, in terms of soul. The third season begins with the consequences of that choice. Zuko is home. He has his father's acknowledgement. He has his girlfriend Mai. He has his bed. He has his palace. He has his honour restored, or so everyone pretends, and he is miserable. He cannot sleep. He cannot eat. He has nightmares. He is physically ill. From what the show suggests is a combination of guilt, spiritual unrest, and the physical toll of living a lie. His father's approval, once received, does not feel the way he expected it to feel. The old quest was sustaining. The fulfillment of the quest is nothing, and Zuko, who has spent 3 years chasing an object, has caught the object and found out the object was empty. This is the show making an argument. The argument is that Zuko was wrong about what he wanted. Not just wrong about the means, wrong about the end. He thought he wanted his father's approval. He thought his father's approval would make him happy, and he has received the approval, and he is not happy. Because the approval is not what he actually needed. What he actually needed was something else. What he actually needed was love. Unconditional love. Love that does not require performance. And that kind of love is not available from Ozai. That kind of love is only available from Iroh. And Iroh is in a cell underneath the palace. Because Zuko put him there. Zuko slowly comes to realise this. It takes several episodes. He tries to convince himself that he is happy. He tries to pick up his old life. He tries to enjoy the comforts of the palace. And all of it fails. Because the performance of happiness is not actual happiness. And Zuko, for the first time in his life, is starting to understand the difference. There is a sequence in the episode Nightmares and Daydreams, which aired on November the 16th, 2007, where Zuko has nightmares that become increasingly disturbing. He dreams of his uncle. He dreams of the Avatar. He dreams of his old life. He wakes up exhausted. He is unravelling, in private, while publicly pretending to be a prince who has everything he wanted. The show is showing you visually the cost of the wrong choice. His body is telling him what his mind has not yet admitted. The choice was wrong. The life is wrong. Something has to change. The Day of Black Sun is the two-part episode that resolves the internal conflict. It aired on November 30th, 2007. During the Fire Nation's moment of greatest vulnerability, when an eclipse strips all firebenders of their bending, Zuko goes to the bunker where his father is hiding, and he delivers a speech. The speech is long. It is a speech he has been rehearsing, in fragments, for months. And it is the speech that makes his redemption possible. He tells his father that the Fire Nation's war has destroyed the world, that their people have been lied to for a century, that the war is not a gift to the other nations but a wound inflicted on them, that the Fire Nation's victory would not be a triumph but a horror. He tells his father that he is leaving, that he is going to find the Avatar, that he is going to teach the Avatar firebending, that he is going to help end the war, and he tells his father, explicitly, that he is sorry for what he has done, and that he is going to spend the rest of his life trying to make it right. Ozai listens. He does not interrupt. When Zuko finishes, Ozai begins to stall. He uses the few minutes left before the eclipse ends to try to manipulate Zuko, to give him information about his mother, to offer him something that might pull him back, and the eclipse ends. And Ozai shoots lightning at his son, and Zuko redirects the lightning the way Iroh taught him, back at his father. And Zuko walks out of the bunker, alive, into the daylight as a traitor. This is the moment of decision. The show has been building toward it for 2.5 seasons. And it is a moment that, structurally, has to work through action rather than dialogue. Because Zuko has given plenty of speeches. The speeches were not what redeemed him. The speeches were words. What redeemed him is the walking out. The concrete, physical, irreversible act of walking away from his father's throne and toward the people his father is trying to kill. That is the redemption. The walking. Everything else is commentary. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. The Western Air Temple is the episode that aired on July 14th, 2008, where Zuko arrives to join Aang's group. He has to earn his way in. And the show is honest about how hard this is. The group does not welcome him. Katara is openly hostile. Sokka is suspicious. Aang is uncertain. Only Toph, who can feel vibrations and therefore can tell when people are lying, hears Zuko's appeal and believes him. She is the one who argues for letting him stay. The others accept him, grudgingly, on a trial basis. And then Zuko has to prove himself. The show uses the next several episodes to structure a series of journeys in which Zuko accompanies different members of the group on specific missions that force him to build trust one relationship at a time. He takes Aang to find the original firebenders. He takes Sokka to free their father from prison. And eventually, in the most emotionally difficult of these journeys, he takes Katara to find the man who killed her mother. Each of these journeys is a piece of what the show is doing with Zuko's redemption, because redemption is not a single act. Redemption is a series of acts. Redemption is earned one relationship at a time, one shared experience at a time, one demonstration of reliability at a time. The journey with Aang in The Firebending Masters, which aired on July 15, 2008, takes them to the ancient Sun Warrior civilization, which the Fire Nation thought had been destroyed centuries ago. It turns out the civilization still exists, hidden, and they have preserved the original form of firebending. Zuko and Aang are tested by the Sun Warriors, and in the final test they are presented to two dragons who were thought to be extinct. The dragons, Ran and Shaw, circle them. They perform the original firebending dance that Zuko and Aang have been learning, and the dragons decide not to kill them. The dragons instead breathe fire around them in a rainbow pattern and bless them as worthy recipients of the original firebending. Zuko and Aang walk out of the ritual with a new understanding of what fire is. This is an important scene because it redefines firebending for both of them. The Fire Nation has been teaching that fire comes from rage, from anger, from the desire to dominate. The Sun Warriors and the dragons teach a different origin. Fire comes from life, from the sun, from breath, from the energy that animates all living things. This is the true form of firebending, and the Fire Nation's version is a corruption. Zuko, who has been struggling with his firebending since the start of the third season, finds his bending transformed by this understanding. He is no longer drawing on rage. He is drawing on life, and his fire, which had been unreliable and weak, becomes strong again, not because he is angrier, but because he is calmer, not because he is fighting harder, but because he is accepting more. The firebending has been renewed by the shift in its ideological foundation, and Zuko, carrying this new understanding back to Aang, becomes a much better teacher because he is teaching a different thing than he was before. The journey with Sokka in The Boiling Rock Parts 1 and 2, aired on July 16, 2008, is a two-part episode set in a Fire Nation maximum security prison. Sokka needs to rescue his father, Hakoda, who was captured during the failed invasion. Zuko accompanies him because Zuko knows the prison system. The episode is structurally a heist movie. It is tightly plotted, tense, and full of practical details. But underneath the plot, it is the episode where Sokka comes to trust Zuko. They work together. They improvise. They escape together. They rescue Hakoda. And in doing so, they form a bond that did not exist before. Sokka sees Zuko as an ally rather than a threat. He sees him as a teammate. And by the end of the episode, the hostility that Sokka had been carrying is gone. The journey with Katara is the most difficult and the most important. The Southern Raiders, which aired on July 17, 2008, is the episode where Zuko finally earns Katara's trust. Or more accurately, where he makes it possible for Katara to stop hating him. The episode's premise is simple. Katara has hated the Fire Nation for her entire life because Fire Nation raiders killed her mother. Zuko offers to help her find the specific man who led the raid. The episode is, on the surface, about revenge. But it is really about what happens when you finally face the person who hurt you and discover that they are not the monster you imagine them to be. They are just a sad, small, pathetic man living in a hut with his mother. And the revenge you imagined, the catharsis, is not available. The pathetic man does not even remember your mother. He remembers the raid as one of many raids. Katara does not kill him. She decides in the moment that killing him would not heal her. She walks away, and on the way home, she forgives Zuko. Not for what he did in the crystal caves, not for the lightning, for something deeper. She forgives him for being Fire Nation, for being associated by blood and by flag with the people who took her mother. And this is the forgiveness that matters. Because Zuko is not asking forgiveness for a specific action. He is asking forgiveness for his identity. And Katara, having confronted the man who actually killed her mother, and having chosen mercy rather than revenge, has opened herself to the possibility of extending the same mercy to Zuko. And she does. The reconciliation is not articulated in words. It is enacted in the silence on the way home. Katara, sitting next to Zuko, not speaking, has crossed from hostility to acceptance. And Zuko, not pushing, not demanding, has allowed her to cross. By the end of the Southern Raiders, Zuko has earned his place in the group. All 4 of the remaining core members, Aang, Katara, Sokka, Toph, have now accepted him. He is one of them. He is no longer the reformed villain on probation. He is a friend, and the final season can move forward with him fully integrated. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. The finale of the series requires Zuko to make one final move in his arc, and the move is not obvious. It is to confront his sister, not his father, and to do so with Katara, not with Aang. This is a deliberate structural choice by the show. Aang confronts Ozai because Ozai is the political villain, the external enemy, the representative of the war. Zuko confronts Azula because Azula is the personal villain, the internal enemy, the representative of everything Zuko almost became. The external enemy and the internal enemy are separated, given their own battles, because the show understands that these are different kinds of conflicts and require different resolutions. Azula by this point is unravelling. We will talk about her more in the next video. But for this video, it is enough to say that she is 14 years old and she is losing her mind. Her friends have betrayed her. Her father has left her behind. She has been abandoned in the palace with a title that turns out to be meaningless. And she is hallucinating her dead mother in the mirror, banishing servants for imagined offences, cutting her own hair with a knife. By the time Zuko arrives for the final Agni Kai, Azula is not the prodigy she was in the second season. She is a wreck. The Agni Kai itself is staged beautifully. It takes place in a courtyard before a crumbling palace during the red sky of Sozin's comet, with falling petals from the palace gardens moving across the frame. The music is a slow, sad piece that does not sound like battle music. It sounds like funeral music. And the battle itself is not a showcase of power. It is 2 siblings trying to destroy each other while the world burns in the background. The battle reaches its climax when Azula, cornered and desperate, aims lightning at Katara, who has been watching from the side. She does this specifically because she knows it will hurt Zuko more than aiming at Zuko would. She has always understood what motivates him better than he does, and Zuko, without hesitating, without calculating, jumps in front of the lightning. He takes the strike to his own chest. He falls. The show holds on the image of him falling. His chest is smoking. His armor is burned. He is not dead, but he might be. And this is the defining moment of Zuko's redemption. Not the speech to his father. Not the defection. Not the earning of trust with each of the heroes. This. The physical act of putting his body between someone he loves and a strike that would have killed her. Redemption, in Zuko's case, comes down to a single physical choice. Do you protect the people you love, or do you protect yourself? And Zuko, who spent 16 years protecting himself, in small ways and large, chooses, in this moment, to protect Katara. He takes the lightning. He falls. And whatever question remained about his loyalty, about his soul, about whether he had truly changed, is answered by the burn on his chest that mirrors the burn on his face. Katara, watching him fall, finishes the fight. She is not a character who usually gets to be the hero of a finale, but in this moment she is. She uses the fountain water around the courtyard, freezes Azula's movements, chains her to a metal grate, and defeats her. And then she runs to Zuko. She heals him. She brings him back. And the show in its final scenes gives them a quiet moment together. Zuko lying on the stone, Katara crying over him, the sound of Azula screaming in the background. It is not a triumph. It is a tragedy contained within a victory. And the show is careful to preserve that complexity. Zuko survives. He survives to become Fire Lord. The coronation is the final set piece of the show. He stands before the Fire Nation. He gives a short speech. He says that the war is over. He says that the Fire Nation has hurt the world. He says that they will spend generations healing the damage. And then he goes to find his uncle. And the scene we have already described occurs. Zuko sits down at the tea shop. Iroh pours him tea. They do not say much. They are together. They are alive. They are, in every way that matters, home. That is the end of the redemption arc. But the arc does not end there. Structurally, because the show makes a specific choice to leave one more element unresolved. Zuko's mother, Ursa, disappeared on the night Azulon died, which is the night Ozai became Fire Lord. Zuko does not know where she is, whether she is alive, why she left. And in one of the quiet scenes near the end of the series, he goes to visit Ozai in prison. He demands to know what happened to Ursa. Ozai refuses to say unless Zuko restores him as Fire Lord. Zuko walks away. The show does not give him the answer. This is deliberate. The show is telling you that redemption is not the same as resolution. Zuko has redeemed himself. He has become the person he was always supposed to be. But that does not mean every question in his life has been answered. Some questions do not close. Some mothers stay missing. And Zuko has to live with the open question. Because that is what adults do. They live with what they cannot fix. They accept that some parts of their history will remain mysteries, and they go forward anyway. The post-series comics eventually provide the answer. Ursa, it turns out, was forced out of the Fire Nation by Ozai after she protected Zuko from Azulon's order to kill him. She lost her memories to a spirit. She lived a new life under a new name in a small Earth Kingdom town. Zuko finds her, eventually. There is a reunion. It is bittersweet. Ursa remembers partially. She is not the mother Zuko remembers, but she is alive, and the family in its way is reconstituted. But the show itself ends before any of this. The show ends with the question open, and the show is right to do this, because the shape of the arc is clearer if it ends with Zuko at peace with his uncle and still searching for his mother. The arc is not complete. It is continuing. And Zuko, having become Fire Lord, has a lifetime of work ahead of him. The war is over. The healing is beginning. And he will be part of it every day for the rest of his life. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. Let us think carefully about why this redemption arc works so well. Many redemption arcs in fiction fail. They feel rushed. They feel unearned. They feel like the writers wanted to redeem the character because the character was popular, rather than because the character had earned the redemption. Zuko does not have this problem, and the reasons are specific and worth naming. First, the arc is long. It takes 3 seasons. Zuko does not change overnight. He does not have a single moment of epiphany, after which everything is different. He has many small moments, spread across years, each of which moves him incrementally toward who he becomes. The slowness is crucial, because real change in real people is slow, and the show is honest about this. Second, the arc is non-linear. Zuko does not simply move from bad to good. He moves from bad to slightly less bad, then back toward bad when Azula offers him the old life, then forward again to slightly better than that, then back when the comforts of home lull him into complacency, then forward again when the comforts become unbearable, then forward again when he commits to the defection, then forward again through each of the earned trust journeys, and then forward one last time when he takes the lightning. The progress is not monotonic. It oscillates. It reverses. It falters. Real people do not have clean arcs. Real people have messy arcs with setbacks, and Zuko's arc honours this reality. Third, the arc is specific. Zuko does not change in the abstract. He changes in response to specific people and specific experiences. He changes because of Iroh's patience, specifically. He changes because of the experience in the Earth Kingdom village, specifically. He changes because of Jin, specifically. He changes because of the journey with the dragons, specifically. He changes because of what he learns about Fire Nation history, specifically. Each change is attached to a specific scene, a specific cause, a specific moment. The arc is not a theme. It is a series of concrete events, and this makes it believable. Fourth, the arc costs something. Zuko does not change for free. Every step of his change takes something from him. He loses his father. He loses his position. He loses his old friends. He nearly loses his life. His body carries the marks of the journey, most notably the new scar on his chest from the lightning. He is paid for his redemption. He has not been given it, and the payment is what makes the arc feel earned. Fifth, and most importantly, the arc is grounded in a specific theory of what redemption is. The show is arguing that redemption is not about becoming a new person. It is about becoming the person you always could have been if circumstances had not broken you. Zuko does not become a different kind of person. He becomes a fuller version of the person he already was, underneath the damage. The kindness that was always in him, that his father beat out of him, comes back. The empathy that was always in him comes back. The loyalty comes back. The love comes back. Redemption, in Zuko's case, is excavation. It is the removal of what was added by abuse, so that what was always there can be visible again. And the show is consistent with this theory throughout. Zuko is never forced to become someone he was not before. He is only freed to become the fullest version of himself. This theory of redemption is more sophisticated than most. Most fictional redemption arcs treat redemption as conversion. The character was bad. Now they are good. The change is discontinuous. Zuko's redemption treats change as continuous. The character was always both things. The circumstances amplified the bad. The new circumstances allow the good to grow. There is no discontinuity, only a long, gradual shift in which of the character's possibilities is dominant. This is why Iroh is so important to the structure. Iroh is the external presence that keeps the good possibility alive during the long years when it is dormant. He is the person who, every single day, treats Zuko as if the good version of Zuko exists and is real. He is the person who refuses to give up on that good version, even when the good version is invisible. And because Iroh keeps the good version alive through his own attention, the good version survives long enough to eventually re-emerge. Without Iroh, Zuko would have become Ozai. Iroh's specific function, in the show's logic, is to ensure that Zuko does not become his father, and he succeeds by keeping the alternative alive, in his own quiet way, for every day of Zuko's banishment. This means that Zuko's redemption is not just Zuko's achievement, it is also Iroh's. It is a collaborative production between the two of them. Zuko makes the choices. Iroh provides the context in which the choices are possible. Without either of them, the arc fails. Zuko cannot redeem himself alone, because he does not know what good looks like. Iroh cannot redeem Zuko alone, because Iroh cannot make the choices for him. The two of them, together, produce the redemption, and the show is honest about this shared authorship. The final scene, Zuko and Iroh in the tea shop, is a statement. They did this together, they got here together, they are together at the end because they were always going to be if things went well, and things went well, and so they are. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. There is something worth saying about how Zuko's redemption plays for the audience. Many fans of the show list Zuko as their favourite character. Many discussions of the show centre on him. Many academic papers have been written about his arc. And the reason, I think, is that Zuko is the character most people can most easily see themselves in. Not because they are Fire Nation princes, but because they are people who have made mistakes, people who have disappointed the people they love, people who have failed at things they wanted, people who have struggled in quiet ways to become the person they want to be, against the gravitational pull of the person they have been. Zuko's arc is the arc of anyone who has ever tried to change, anyone who has ever had to leave a part of themselves behind, anyone who has ever had to choose between the approval of a parent and the needs of their own soul, anyone who has ever realised that the thing they were chasing was not the thing they actually wanted, anyone who has ever had to earn back trust they did not deserve to lose, anyone who has ever taken the lightning, metaphorically or actually, for someone they love. Zuko, in this sense, is not specifically Fire Nation. He is not specifically 16. He is not specifically male. He is human. He is the part of all of us that has messed up and has to find a way back. And the show, by giving him a complete, detailed, honest arc, is giving all of us a kind of template. This is what it looks like when someone actually changes. This is what it costs. This is what it requires. This is what it earns. If you want to change, you can. Here is one possible version of how. That is why the arc resonates. That is why people remember it, decades after watching it. Because it is a promise that change is possible. Not easy, not fast, but possible. And the possibility matters. Because people need to believe that change is possible in order to undertake change. And the show, by showing a change that is believable, gives people the belief they need. Think about the moment one more time, where Zuko hugs Iroh in the cell. He has been rehearsing a speech for months. He arrives ready to deliver it, and Iroh preempts him by hugging him, by saying that there is nothing to forgive, by offering in advance the forgiveness Zuko was planning to beg for. This moment is, in a sense, the emotional core of the entire arc, because it tells Zuko and tells the audience that the forgiveness he wanted was already available. He did not have to earn it. It was a gift, freely offered, from the moment Iroh decided to give it, which was probably months ago, possibly years. The weight of this hug. Think about what it must have felt like to Zuko. He's been carrying shame for everything he did. He's been planning his atonement. He's been building up a case for why he deserves to be forgiven. And Iroh, without listening to the case, without hearing the speech, without evaluating the evidence, hugs him, offers the forgiveness, says in effect, it is already yours. It was always yours. You did not have to come find it. You just had to come back. And I was waiting. This is the theological heart of the arc. The show is arguing that redemption is not earned. Ultimately, it is received. It is available. It is extended by those who love you, regardless of whether you have earned it. And the path to redemption is not to become worthy of it. The path is to be willing to accept it, to walk into the room where it is waiting, to let yourself be hugged. This is a difficult argument for most people to accept, because it violates the economic logic most of us carry. Most of us believe forgiveness is a transaction. You hurt someone, you apologize, you make amends, you are forgiven. This is how the transaction is supposed to work. But Iroh's framework does not work that way. Iroh's framework says that forgiveness is a gift. It is extended before you ask. It is available whether or not you earn it. The work you do after receiving it is not payment for the gift. It is the natural response of someone who has been so moved by the gift that they cannot help but become different. Zuko's post-redemption behaviour is not payment for his forgiveness. It is the result of his forgiveness. He becomes Fire Lord, not because he owes it to his uncle, but because he has been so transformed by his uncle's love that he cannot be anything else. The love changed him. The love, received freely, reshaped him. And the reshaping is ongoing. It will continue for the rest of his life. He will never be done being changed by what Iroh gave him in that cell. And that is the point. That is what unconditional love does. It does not exact payment, it transforms. This is Zuko's redemption arc, in its final theological form. A young man damaged by his father's conditional love is saved by his uncle's unconditional love. The damage is real, the salvation is real. The process takes years. The result is a Fire Lord who will spend the rest of his life trying to heal a world his family helped to break. Not because he has to, but because he wants to. Because the love he received has made him into someone who could not want anything else. And that is what makes the arc work. Not the specific plot beats, not the action sequences, not the carefully staged Agni Kais. The theological framework, the understanding of what change actually is, and how it actually happens, and what actually causes it. The show has a correct theory of transformation, and because the theory is correct, the arc feels true. And because the arc feels true, audiences carry it with them, and they apply it to their own lives, in their own quiet ways for years after the show ends. That is the whole story. That is Zuko's complete redemption arc. It begins with a boy alone in a cabin, staring at nothing, not knowing who he is. It ends with a man in a tea shop, drinking tea with his uncle, knowing exactly who he is. Between those two moments, there are years of travel, years of choices, years of setbacks, years of small and large decisions, years of patience on Iroh's part, and years of struggle on Zuko's part, and ultimately one act of physical sacrifice that made everything else possible. And at the end, there is tea, and there is peace, and there is the quiet, earned understanding that the work was worth it, that the person he became was worth becoming, that the love he received and the love he gave were the only things that ever actually mattered. Let us now sit with several specific moments from Zuko's arc that deserve more attention than a single reading can give them, because the arc, as we have described it, is the shape of the story. But the shape is not the story. The story is in the specific moments. And a proper reading of Zuko's redemption requires entering those moments long enough to understand what each of them was doing, individually, before we can understand what they were doing together. Consider the scene at the end of the 3rd episode of the 1st season. The Southern Air Temple. Aang has just discovered that his people are all dead. He has entered the Avatar state. The wind has picked up around him. He is levitating. His eyes are glowing. And the monks in the spirit world are responding to his rage. Zuko and his ship are several islands away when this happens. But Zuko's ship registers the disturbance. Zuko comes up on deck, and he sees the beam of light shooting into the sky from the temple, and he says one word. Aang, not Avatar. Aang, as if they are already on a first-name basis, as if Zuko has been thinking about this boy specifically, not as an abstract target, but as a person. The show does not underline this. It does not point at it. It just lets Zuko say the word. But the word tells you, if you are paying attention, that Zuko has been studying his prey in a way that has brought him closer to knowing the prey than an assassin should ever let himself get. He knows the Avatar's name. He knows the Avatar's face. And some part of him, below the level of awareness, has already begun to think of the Avatar not as a thing to capture, but as a specific boy to find. This is the show planting a seed. The seed will not germinate for many seasons. But the planting happens here, in the 3rd episode, in one word. The Storm, which is the 12th episode of the 1st season, is the first episode that gives Zuko an extended interior life. The show intercuts his story with Aang's. Both boys are remembering moments from their past. Aang is remembering the day he ran away from the Southern Air Temple. Zuko is remembering the Agni Kai with his father. The episode structure is telling you that these two boys are carrying similar weights. Both of them are being hunted by their own histories. Both of them wake up in the night thinking about the day their childhood ended. The episode does not spell this out. It just cuts between them, in a storm, on the ocean, and lets the juxtaposition do the work. The scene where 13-year-old Zuko kneels in the Agni Kai arena is, by any measure, one of the most difficult scenes in the show. The flashback shows you everything. Zuko, too young for his uniform, which is too big for his body. Zuko kneeling. Zuko turning to face his opponent. Zuko realizing, in the split second before it is too late, that his opponent is his father. Zuko saying, "Please." Zuko crying. Zuko begging. And Ozai walking forward and doing what he came to do. The fire comes, the scar forms, the scream happens, and the adult Zuko, on the deck of the ship in the present, touches the burn on his face reflexively. Because the body remembers what the mind has been trying to bury. The show trusts you with this. It does not pull back from the violence. It does not cut away at the critical moment. It lets you see the fire on the boy's face. And it lets you understand, without being told, that this is the wound at the centre of Zuko's life. Everything else flows from this. The quest for the Avatar is downstream of this. The obsession with honour is downstream of this. The inability to rest, to sleep, to accept comfort is downstream of this. A father burned his 13-year-old son in a ritual duel in front of witnesses and then banished him. That is where Zuko begins. And the episode ends with Zuko saving a member of his own crew during the storm. A sailor has gone overboard. Zuko, without hesitating, risks his own life to pull the sailor out of the water. This is played as a small moment, but the show is, again, planting a seed. This is who Zuko is underneath the armour. He is a person who saves sailors. He is a person who jumps into the ocean to pull someone out. The cruelty he displays in most scenes is a layer on top of a person who is, fundamentally, kind. The kindness keeps leaking through the cruelty in moments when he forgets to perform. Consider Iroh's specific role in the early episodes. Iroh is easy to dismiss in the first season. He eats, he sleeps, he sings little songs, he plays Pai Sho. He gets distracted by hot springs and fruit stands. The show seems to be presenting him as comic relief. And then in specific scenes that are easy to miss on a first viewing, Iroh reveals himself to be exactly what he is. A trained, lethal, extraordinarily skilled combatant who has chosen, as a matter of personal preference, to appear harmless. This is an important part of how Iroh functions as a mentor. He is not preaching from weakness, he is preaching from strength. When he tells Zuko that anger is not the best fuel for fire bending, he is not giving folk wisdom. He is relaying the teaching of someone who has generated more fire than most humans have ever seen. When he tells Zuko to be patient, to wait, to accept what cannot be controlled, he is speaking from the authority of a man who has been through worse and has come out wiser. The wisdom is earned, and Zuko, at some level he does not yet understand, respects his uncle because he knows the wisdom is earned. Zuko does not listen to the wisdom yet, but the respect is there. And eventually the respect will open the door to the listening. The Agni Kai with Zhao, which we discussed earlier, contains another moment worth revisiting. After Zuko defeats Zhao, he does not walk away immediately. He stands over Zhao, fist raised, fire flickering around his hand. For half a second, the audience is uncertain whether Zuko will strike the finishing blow, and then he lowers his hand. He turns. He walks away. Iroh, watching from the side, releases a breath he has been holding. This breath is the whole story. Iroh was afraid, in that moment, that Zuko would kill Zhao. Not because Zhao did not deserve to be killed, because killing Zhao would have been a step for Zuko in a direction Iroh has been trying to keep him from taking. The moment Zuko lowers his fist is the moment Iroh's patience is vindicated, briefly, before the next test arrives. The Blue Spirit sequence deserves closer reading. The mask Zuko wears is a theatrical mask, the face of a character from Fire Nation opera. It is painted blue, with stylized features, a grimacing mouth, slits for eyes. It is not a mask Zuko made. It is a mask Zuko bought, or was given, or found. And when he puts it on, he becomes someone else. Not Prince Zuko, Not the son of Ozai. Not the banished heir. Someone who can move silently, who can strike without warning, who does not have to be anyone in particular. The mask gives him anonymity, and in the anonymity, he can do things his social identity would forbid. Breaking Aang out of a Fire Nation prison is one of those things, because he is supposed to be capturing Aang, not rescuing him. But under the mask, the rules of his social identity do not apply. He is free, for a few hours, from the quest that is shaping his life. He can do what he wants, and what he wants, it turns out, is to rescue the boy he has been hunting. Because the boy is a child, and the prison is cruel, and even the Zuko who is performing villainy for his father cannot bring himself to leave a child in a Fire Nation dungeon. The show is telling you, through the mask, that Zuko's true preferences are different from his performed preferences. When he is allowed to be anonymous, when the cost of kindness is 0, he chooses kindness. The mask is a diagnostic. It reveals the Zuko underneath the armour, and when Aang unmasks him, when he sees the real face, Zuko's response is to shoot fire, because the real face is shameful to Zuko. The real face is the face that his father burned, that his father rejected, that his father sent away. The mask was a relief from that face. The unmasking reinstates the shame, and the shame produces violence, because that is what Zuko has been taught to do with shame. He cannot sit with it, he cannot process it. He can only expel it, in a burst of flame, toward whoever happens to be standing in front of him. Aang is standing in front of him. Aang escapes. But Aang, before he escapes, asks the question we keep returning to. Do you think we could have been friends? And the question is still hanging in the air when Zuko shoots fire, because the question is also a kind of unmasking. It forces Zuko to imagine a version of himself in which the answer is yes, a version in which they are friends, a version in which Zuko is not the hunter, but the peer. And that imagining is unbearable to the Zuko we meet in the first season, because he has built his entire life around being the hunter, and the alternative would require him to abandon the life he has built. Fire is easier. Fire is what he knows. There is a moment in the second half of the first season where Iroh gives Zuko a small speech about balance, about the need to incorporate the techniques of other elements into firebending, about the specific way Iroh himself has learned from waterbenders how to redirect lightning. The speech is a technical lesson, but it is also a philosophical one. Iroh is telling Zuko that the walls the Fire Nation has built between itself and the other nations are not natural, they are chosen, and a wise firebender breaches those walls, quietly, for personal growth, even when the culture around him is telling him not to. Zuko does not respond to the speech. He is too busy being bitter, but the lesson has been delivered, and later at the Fire Nation Palace, when Ozai shoots lightning at him, Zuko will remember this technique. He will redirect the lightning. He will survive the attack, and he will survive because his uncle, years earlier, taught him a lesson drawn from waterbenders during a moment when Zuko thought he was not listening. This is how Iroh's mentorship works. He plants things. He does not expect them to bloom immediately. He trusts that the seeds will remember themselves when the rain comes. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. Let us think about the second season's treatment of the Earth Kingdom countryside. Most of the middle of Book 2 is Zuko and Iroh wandering across the Earth Kingdom. They are not pursuing anyone. They are, for the first time in the show, genuinely unmoored. Zuko's quest has been suspended. His status has been revoked. His ship is destroyed. His crew is gone. He has only Iroh and a sword and the clothes on his back. And this condition, stripped of the apparatus of Fire Nation identity, is where Zuko begins to become someone else. The show uses this wandering to explore, episode by episode, what Zuko does when he has no agenda, and the answer is consistently surprising. Even to him, he helps people. He protects the weak. He works for food. He takes jobs. He does not steal or manipulate or dominate. Even though his firebending gives him the ability to do all of those things, he chooses, over and over, to participate in the world as a person rather than as a weapon. And the show is telling you, through these small choices, that Zuko's imperial identity was never his nature. It was his training. When the training is suspended, his nature starts to breathe again, and the nature is kind. The Jin date we discussed is worth returning to as well, because the date itself is such a small, strange, tender event in the middle of a dark season. Zuko, working at the tea shop under his alias Lee, is noticed by a girl. She likes him. She is kind to him. She asks him on a date. And Zuko, who has never been on a date, who has had no experience with flirtation or with being chosen, panics. Iroh pressures him to go, and Zuko goes awkwardly, in his refugee clothes with his scar on display, not knowing how to behave. The date is, in most of its moments, uncomfortable to watch. Zuko does not know how to make small talk. He does not know how to ask questions. He does not know how to receive compliments. He sits across from Jin in a small public garden and struggles, and then Jin leaves for a moment, and Zuko, alone, realises that the lanterns that are supposed to be lit for the Festival of Lights have not been lit. He uses his fire bending, secretly, to light all of them at once. Jin returns to find the entire garden transformed. She gasps, and for a moment, Zuko has given her something specific, a gift that only he could have given, a moment only he could have made possible, and he sees, in her face, that she is delighted. And then she kisses him. And Zuko, who has never been kissed like this, freezes, pulls back, offers her the last of the coupons Iroh gave him, leaves. It is an awkward ending. It is also, in its awkwardness, one of the most moving moments in the season, because it is Zuko receiving, for the first time in his life, a form of affection that he does not know how to receive. He is not prepared for it. He does not have the emotional vocabulary. But the moment has happened. The lantern garden has been lit. The kiss has occurred. And these things become part of his history, whether or not he knows what to do with them. The show is quietly telling you that Zuko's conversion is not just about ideology. It is also about sensory experience, about being kissed, about being seen, about being liked by a stranger for reasons he does not understand. These small, physical, interpersonal events are the ground on which a new self can grow. And the Fire Nation, for Zuko's entire childhood, did not provide this ground. His father did not kiss him. His sister did not like him. His mother vanished. His crew feared him. His uncle loved him. But Iroh's love was, for a long time, the only love in his life. Jin's kiss breaks the exclusivity of Iroh's role. She opens the possibility that other people too can care about him, without requiring him to be a prince or a hero or anything in particular. She just likes him for his face. And the face she does not mind. The scar she does not care about. This is a very specific kind of medicine. For a person who has built his identity around the shame of the scar, being seen by someone who does not care about the scar is a kind of correction that cannot be achieved through speeches. It has to be felt. It has to happen in real time, in a real body, with a real other person, and Jin provides this. For one evening, it is not a romance. Zuko and Jin do not become a couple. The show does not return to her. But the one evening, the lanterns, the kiss, is enough to plant something that will continue to grow inside him for the rest of the series. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. Let us spend more time with Zuko's firebending, because his firebending is a technical expression of his psychological state, and the show uses it as such throughout the arc. In the first season, Zuko's firebending is aggressive, linear, and inconsistent. He is a skilled fighter, but his fire is not powerful. It is insufficient, often, to defeat opponents who should be his lessers. The show is telling you, through the weakness of his fire, that something is wrong with his energy source. The Fire Nation teaches firebending from anger. Zuko has plenty of anger, but his anger is not the pure, focused, generative anger the Fire Nation thinks it is. His anger is contaminated with shame, with fear, with grief. It is the anger of a wounded child rather than the anger of a trained soldier, and his firebending reflects this contamination. The fire comes out weak. In the second season, as Zuko's inner state changes through the wandering and the tea shop, and Jin and the Earth Kingdom, his firebending becomes more unpredictable. Sometimes it is weaker, sometimes it flares. The show is, again, using the fire as a readout. His old psychological scaffolding is being disassembled. The new one has not yet been built. The fire, without stable psychological grounding, becomes unreliable. And Iroh notices. Iroh sees the unreliability. Iroh suggests in multiple scenes that the Fire Nation's theory of firebending is wrong, that anger is not the right fuel, that there is a different way. Zuko dismisses him then, because he is not yet ready to hear the alternative. In the third season, Zuko's firebending enters a crisis. The crisis becomes acute in the episode The Firebending Masters, where Zuko discovers he cannot produce fire. His fire has vanished. He can still technically perform the forms, but the fire does not come. And the show is making the same argument it has been making throughout. Zuko's old fuel source, his anger, has been depleted. The old rage does not come anymore, because he has started to move past it. He has, in effect, outgrown the anger that used to power him, and he has not yet replaced it with a new fuel. His firebending, therefore, is running on empty. The solution comes through the dragons. Ran and Shaw teach Zuko and Aang a new form of firebending, a form drawn not from anger but from life, from the sun, from breath, from the warmth that animates bodies and grows plants. The dragons show them through a dance what fire is actually for, and Zuko, performing the dance, receives a new relationship to his element. He is not drawing from anger anymore. He is drawing from life, and his fire returns, stronger than before, cleaner than before, more reliable than before, because it is now powered by something that does not deplete. This is, again, the show making a technical argument that is really a psychological argument. A person powered by anger will eventually run out of anger. A person powered by life will not run out of life because life is renewable. The fuel source determines the sustainability of the person. Zuko's transformation in the Firebending Masters is not just a plot point, it is an argument about what a good life is fueled by. Not by rage at what has been done to you, by gratitude for what you have been given, by connection to what is alive, by the sun, essentially. That is the new fuel. And Zuko, once he receives this lesson, can teach it to Aang. He can be Aang's firebending teacher, finally, with authority, because he has solved, in himself, the problem that was holding him back. Aang, who is afraid of firebending because he burned Katara during an earlier lesson, receives the new understanding. Aang too learns that fire is not rage. Fire is energy. Fire is life. And Aang's firebending, in the final season, becomes reliable. Not because Aang has changed, because Zuko has. The teacher can only give what the teacher has, and Zuko, having found the new fuel, can now share it. Let us also talk about Zuko's scar. It is visually the most distinctive feature of his face. A dark burn that covers the left side, running from his forehead down through his eye and over his cheekbone. The burn is large. It is not subtle. It takes up a significant portion of his face. And every time we see Zuko, we see the burn. It is inescapable. The show is using the scar as a visual argument. The scar is the permanent record of what Zuko's father did to him. It cannot be erased. No amount of character growth will remove it. No waterbending healing has ever, in the show, fully restored it. Katara, the show's best healer, could have tried. She does not. The scar is not presented as something to be cured. The scar is presented as a fact, a history, a permanent part of who Zuko is. And this is a choice. The show could have given Zuko, at the moment of his redemption, a healed face. It could have marked the internal change with an external change. Most redemption arcs do this in some way, but Avatar does not. Zuko becomes Fire Lord with his scar intact. He accepts the crown with his scar intact. He drinks tea with his uncle with his scar intact. The scar is still there. It will always be there. This is an argument about redemption that goes against the grain of most stories. The argument is that redemption does not erase the past. Redemption does not heal every wound. Redemption does not make you beautiful again. Redemption means you learn to live with what has been done to you. You carry it, you accept it, you keep going. Zuko, at the end of the series, is not the boy he was before the scar. He can never be that boy again. He is someone else. But he is someone else who has integrated the wound into a functioning identity. The wound is part of him, and that is what adulthood looks like. Not the restoration of wholeness, the integration of damage. By the finale, Zuko gains a second scar. From the lightning he takes for Katara, it is on his chest. And the second scar, layered onto the first, completes the visual argument. Zuko is now doubly marked. His father burned his face. His sister burned his chest. Both burns are the price of specific choices. The first was involuntary. The second was voluntary. And the show is telling you, through the two scars, that the arc from involuntary suffering to voluntary sacrifice is the arc of his entire life. He was burned once because he could not protect himself. He was burned again because he chose to protect someone else. The two burns are the same mark, in different moral valences, and both are permanent. Zuko lives with both scars for the rest of his life. He becomes Fire Lord with both. He rules with both. He raises children with both. He dies eventually with both. The scars do not fade. The scars are not supposed to fade. They are the record. And the record is carried, because that is what a redeemed person does. They carry the record of what has happened to them and what they have done. And they keep going anyway. Not in spite of the record, because of it. Because the record is part of what they are. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. Let us think about the specific nature of the hug in Iroh's cell. We have discussed this scene already, but it is worth spending more time inside it. The cell is a Fire Nation prison cell. It is underground in the capital. Zuko has access because he is a prince. He approaches the cell on the day after the eclipse, after his defection, with the plan to deliver his apology speech. He has been rehearsing. He has been rewriting. He has a version of the speech that feels, to him, like the best possible articulation of his regret. He is terrified. He is hoping. He is convinced that his uncle will be angry. He is prepared for the possibility that the hug he wants will not come. When Zuko enters the cell, Iroh is sleeping. He is on a thin mat, on the stone floor, in a dirty brown prison robe. He has not been well cared for. He is thinner than before. His beard is longer. His hair is tangled. But he is, when Zuko sees him, at peace, sleeping, which is remarkable, because Iroh has been imprisoned for months, and most people in that position are not at peace. Zuko wakes him. Iroh opens his eyes. He sees his nephew. He says nothing. Zuko begins the speech. He rehearses the apology. He explains what he has done. He describes his defection. He asks Iroh to forgive him. And Iroh, partway through the speech, stands up, walks across the cell, and hugs him, without a word, just wraps his arms around the boy and holds him. And Zuko finally breaks. The speech he has been preparing falls apart. He cries. Iroh holds him. The cell is quiet. Time passes, and when Iroh speaks, he says something like, "How can I not forgive you? You are my nephew." This line is important. How can I not forgive you? The phrasing treats forgiveness as inevitable, as the natural response of a person who loves another person, not as something negotiated, not as something earned, just as something that happens inside Iroh, because Zuko is Zuko and Iroh is Iroh, and the relationship between them was never broken by the surface events of the past year. The relationship was always present, underneath the events. The events were a detour. Now the detour is over, and the relationship is still there, as it always was. This is a very specific theological position about love. The position is that love is ontological rather than transactional, that it exists between specific people as a fact about their shared reality, that the behaviours of the two people may change. The love does not. The love is the relationship underneath the behaviours. And the behaviours are, in a sense, expressions of the love under various conditions. Sometimes the expressions are good. Sometimes the expressions are bad. But the underlying love is constant. And when the bad expressions are over, the good expressions resume. Because the love was never interrupted. The love was always there. This is not how most people experience love. Most people experience love as something that can be lost. Most people think, if you hurt me badly enough, I will stop loving you. And most people act accordingly. They guard against being hurt. They protect themselves. They calibrate the love based on the behaviour of the loved person. Iroh does not do this. Iroh loves Zuko without calibration. The love does not decrease when Zuko is cruel. The love does not increase when Zuko is kind. The love is the same, at maximum, always. And the only question is whether Zuko is in contact with it at any given moment. When Zuko is cruel, he is out of contact with Iroh's love. Not because the love has decreased, because Zuko is not letting it in. He is too defended, too ashamed, too busy performing his father's version of himself. The love is still there. Iroh is still sending it, but Zuko is not receiving it. And when Zuko becomes ready to receive it, after the defection, after the months of internal work, he walks into Iroh's cell and finds the love exactly where it has always been, waiting, unmodified, available. This is the theological core of Zuko's redemption. He has not earned the love. He has only become able to receive it. And receiving it does not require apology. It does not require penance. It only requires willingness. Iroh hugs him because Iroh was always going to hug him. The hug was available in month 1 of the exile. The hug was available after the betrayal in the caves. The hug was available during the imprisonment. The hug has always been there, extended, unclaimed, ready. And now finally, Zuko claims it. And the claiming is the redemption, not the speech, not the atonement, the simple physical act of walking into a cell, letting his uncle wrap arms around him, and crying. This is also, the show is telling you, what is possible between any two people who love each other. This is what forgiveness can be when it is done at its deepest. Not a transaction, a welcome, a reopening of the door that was never really closed. And the door opens because the love on the far side of it was, all along, trying to open it, waiting for the person on the other side to turn the handle. Let us also discuss the final Agni Kai at more length, because it is the emotional climax of Zuko's arc, and the specific choreography of the duel carries weight that a brief description cannot capture. The staging is deliberate. The courtyard before the palace is empty. There are no spectators. Usually, an Agni Kai has spectators. This one does not. The only witnesses are Katara, watching from the side, and the characters themselves. The silence is unusual. The music is unusual. There is a slow, sad piece playing. Almost a ballad that does not sound like battle music. It sounds like something you would play at a funeral. And the show is telling you, through this choice, that what is about to happen is not a triumph. It is a tragedy. Azula arrives in ceremonial armour. Her hair has been cut badly, and she has tried to compensate with a top knot that does not quite work. Her makeup is uneven. One side of her face is painted slightly differently from the other. Her gaze is unfocused. She laughs inappropriately. She is visibly not in her right mind. And Zuko, seeing her, does not press his advantage. He offers her an Agni Kai, a ritual duel, structured, clean, one-on-one. Azula agrees. She wants the fight. She wants to kill her brother. She wants, beneath everything, to prove once more that she is the better sibling, the worthy heir, the child her father chose. The duel is her last opportunity to prove this, and she throws herself into it with the whole of whatever remains of her. The fight itself has a specific structure. Zuko is not attacking aggressively. He is holding back. He is waiting. He is trying to let Azula exhaust herself, and he is also quietly watching her. Because he can see that she is not who she was. She is not the prodigy who defeated him in the caves beneath Ba Sing Se. She is something worse, something breaking. And he is giving her room, in case the breaking produces surrender. The surrender does not come. Instead, Azula escalates. She starts aiming wildly. She misses. She misses again. She is making mistakes. And Zuko, realizing that the pattern of wild misses gives him an opening, begins to press forward. He gains ground. He pushes her back. He is slowly beating her. And Azula, recognizing the loss, makes her final strategic decision. She aims lightning at Katara. Consider the specific feeling of it for Zuko. He sees the lightning forming in her hands. He sees the angle. He understands, in the half second before she releases it, that she is not aiming at him. She is aiming at Katara, and he has a split second to decide what to do. He could let it hit. Katara might be fast enough to dodge. Katara might be able to deflect it. But Zuko does not gamble with Katara. He jumps. The jump is not heroic in the traditional sense. It is not dramatic. It is quick and committed. He moves toward the lightning. He positions himself between Azula and Katara. The lightning hits him. His body becomes a conduit for the energy his uncle taught him to redirect. And he tries to redirect it. But he is mid-air. He is not grounded. And the lightning goes into him and through him, and he does not complete the redirection. Part of it comes back out. Part of it stays in his chest. And he falls. The fall itself is slow. The camera pulls back. Zuko lands on the stone. Smoke rises from his chest armor. He twitches. And Azula, watching, does not immediately feel triumphant. She is confused, because her strike hit her brother instead of Katara. Her aim was correct, but the strike has gone in the wrong direction, and she cannot quite process the fact that her brother has just done something she would never do, jumped in front of a lightning strike for another person. It does not compute inside her worldview. Azula, in the confusion, becomes vulnerable, and Katara, whose presence has just been protected by Zuko's body, seizes the opportunity. She waterbends. She uses the fountains in the courtyard. She freezes Azula's feet. She chains Azula to a metal grate in the ground. Azula screams. Azula thrashes, and Katara runs to Zuko, kneels next to him, opens her water skin, pulls out the spirit water, and begins to heal the burn on his chest. The scene ends with Zuko breathing again. His eyes open. He looks at Katara. He tries to smile. He thanks her. And the tears the show has been withholding from this moment are allowed, finally, to come. Because both of them survived. Both of them are alive. And the war that began before either of them was born is, at last, over. This is the shape of Zuko's redemption completed. A boy who chased the Avatar for 3 years ends up in the courtyard of his own palace, protecting the Avatar's friend from his own sister by putting his body in the path of a strike that was meant to kill her. The transformation from season 1 to finale is not gradual, it is total. The Zuko who existed in The Boy in the Iceberg would not have jumped. The Zuko who exists in Sozin's Comet has to jump. He cannot do otherwise. The jumping is, at this point, the default expression of who he has become. The redemption is no longer something he is working toward. It is something he enacts automatically, in the critical moment. And that is the test of all character work. Not whether the character thinks differently, whether the character acts differently, in a moment when thinking is too slow. Zuko, in the last second before the lightning, does not deliberate. He moves. And the moving is the measure of the man he has become. The internal work has produced a body that now on instinct does the right thing. That is what change looks like when it is real. The instincts have been remade, and the instincts now serve the person he has decided to be, without requiring his conscious effort every time. That is the full portrait of Zuko's redemption, completed across 3 seasons of specific, patient, unflinching work by the writers, and enacted by a teenage boy whose arc remains one of the most important character studies in the history of animated television. Let us also talk about Zuko's relationship with Mai, because it is one of the strangest romantic relationships the show depicts, and it is worth understanding why. Mai and Zuko were betrothed as children, or near betrothed. The children of Fire Nation aristocracy were paired early by their parents for reasons that had to do with political alliances and family reputations. Mai's family was noble. Zuko's family was royal. The pairing made sense to the adults. The children, Mai and Zuko specifically, did not object. They were together as small children. Zuko had a crush on her when he was a little boy. Mai was quieter, more contained, harder to read. But she liked him too, in her way. The betrothal, such as it was disrupted by Zuko's banishment. When Zuko was 13 and was sent away, Mai and Zuko lost contact. They did not see each other for 3 years. They were kids when they parted, and teenagers by the time they met again. The reunion happens at the start of the 3rd season, when Zuko returns to the Fire Nation. Mai comes to the palace. She slaps him across the face. Then she kisses him. Then she tells him she hates him for leaving her. This is, in a certain sense, an efficient depiction of their relationship. Mai is capable of exactly one emotion, most of the time, which is a flat, unimpressed boredom. The boredom is a defense. She grew up with a mother who told her that a child should not be seen or heard. She learned, from early childhood, to suppress her own emotional reactions. She became, by her teenage years, a girl who could pass through most situations without visible affect. This was, for her family, a kind of success. Mai was quiet. Mai was controllable. Mai was well behaved. And Mai was, internally, completely numb. Zuko, in his way, pulls her out of the numbness, because he is the one person who has caused her a genuine emotional reaction. She liked him as a child. She missed him during his exile. She felt his absence for 3 years. And when he comes back, she has to admit, to herself and to him, that she is capable of feeling things. That the flatness she has maintained her whole life is not all of her. That there is something underneath. And Zuko is the person who is, for reasons Mai cannot fully articulate, able to access that something. Their relationship in the 3rd season is, therefore, unlike most teen romances. They do not hold hands much. They do not gaze at each other. They do not dramatically declare their love. They just are, in the same room, tolerating each other's company, occasionally touching, occasionally arguing. And underneath the surface flatness, there is a specific kind of devotion. Mai is loyal to Zuko in a way she is loyal to almost nothing else. And Zuko, who has received almost no loyalty in his life, is quietly moved by this. He does not always understand her. She does not always understand him. But they are, in their broken way, together. When Zuko defects, the defection hits Mai harder than it hits anyone else in the Fire Nation. Because the defection is, from Mai's perspective, a second abandonment. Zuko left her once as a child when he was banished. Now he is leaving her again, by choice, for an ideology she does not share. She writes him a letter that captures the compound wound. She tells him, essentially, that he has broken her heart twice. And later, in The Boiling Rock, when Mai has a chance to choose between loyalty to Azula and loyalty to Zuko, Mai chooses Zuko, even though he has hurt her, even though he has abandoned her, even though she has every right to be angry with him. She helps him escape. She physically fights off Azula. She saves his life. And her line to Azula, when Azula demands an explanation, is the famous one. "I love Zuko more than I fear you." Think about what that line actually contains. Mai, who has been conditioned her entire life to suppress feeling, is articulating the specific feeling she has been suppressing. She loves him. She is stating the love out loud for the first time, to the person in the world most dangerous to hear it. She is risking her life to protect someone who has already broken her heart. And she is choosing love over fear, which is not a choice she has ever been shown to make before. The line is a breakthrough. It is Mai, at 17, saying what she has never been permitted to say. And the saying changes her. From this moment on, Mai is not the same person. She has crossed a line. She has named a feeling. She has acted on it. Zuko, when he learns about this later, is moved by it. He has been telling himself, since his defection, that he has lost everything. His family, his country, his throne, his girlfriend. And he has accepted these losses as the cost of doing the right thing. And then Mai shows up, through actions rather than words, having chosen him over Azula, having risked her own life to protect his. And Zuko has to revise his understanding of what he has lost. He has lost his father. He has not lost Mai. Mai is somehow still his. She forgave him before he asked. She loved him during the exile. She has been holding her own against Azula in the background of the whole war, waiting for Zuko to come back. By the end of the series, they are together again. Mai is there for his coronation. She stands in the background. She is still flat. She is still unimpressed. She is still wearing mostly black. But she is there, and she will be there for the rest of Zuko's life. As far as the comics extend, they will have a daughter together. They will have a complicated marriage. They will split up and get back together. But the fundamental fact of their connection, established in the 3rd season, will persist. And Zuko, who spent his adolescence being abandoned by everyone who was supposed to love him, will have at least one person who decided, once and for all, that she would not abandon him. Not again. This is important for understanding Zuko's psychological recovery, because Zuko, to heal, needs more than Iroh. Iroh is his uncle. Iroh's love is familial. And familial love, important as it is not the whole picture. Zuko also needs romantic love. He needs someone who chose him, not who was born into his family, but who actively, voluntarily decided to love him. Mai is that person, and her presence in his life through the whole series is part of what makes his survival possible. She is the quiet witness who stays. And staying, in Zuko's case, is the whole thing. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. There is a small scene in the 3rd season that is worth spending time with. It is in the episode The Beach, which we have already touched on. Zuko goes off alone in the middle of the vacation. He walks up a hill. He sits down. He looks at the ocean. And a long time passes. The show holds on him, sitting alone watching the water. This is the kind of scene children's television almost never does. There is no dialogue. There is no plot. There is no action. There is just a teenage boy sitting on a hill, thinking. And the show trusts the audience to sit with him, to absorb, through the length of the shot, what he is carrying, to understand that this is a boy who has a lot to think about, and who is finally, briefly, alone enough to think. What is he thinking about? The show does not tell us, but you can guess. He is thinking about his mother. He is thinking about his sister. He is thinking about his father. He is thinking about his uncle. He is thinking about the war. He is thinking about whether the Fire Nation's version of history is really true. He is thinking about Aang. He is thinking about the way he felt as a nobody in the tea shop. He is thinking about Jin. He is thinking about what it would mean to defect. He is thinking, perhaps for the first time in his life, clearly, without being interrupted. And the clarity is producing a direction. He is beginning to know what he needs to do. The beach episode is, in this sense, not a filler-vacation episode. It is the episode where Zuko starts to organise his thoughts. The conversations at the bonfire give him vocabulary for feelings he has been carrying in silence. The solitude on the hill gives him time to integrate. And by the end of the episode, he is ready to move forward, not yet decided, but ready to consider deciding. The groundwork has been laid. The defection is now a possibility rather than a fantasy. And the rest of the season will be about Zuko moving from possibility to decision to action. Let us also think about Zuko's relationship with his father during the third season, specifically. Because he spends most of the early third season trying to behave as if everything is fine, while privately knowing it is not. And the show depicts this double life with specificity. Zuko attends war meetings with Ozai. He stands at attention, he bows, he offers strategic input, he performs the role of the dutiful son. And you can see, in the angle of his shoulders, in the way he looks at the floor, in the carefulness of his speech, that the performance is costing him. He is not at ease. He is not comfortable. He is working. Every minute in his father's presence is work, and the work is exhausting him. Iroh in the cell is doing a different kind of work. He is preparing physically and spiritually for the moment when he will need to escape. He has been practicing his firebending in private. He has been eating methodically, turning himself from a soft man into a dense, powerful one. He has been meditating. He has been, quietly, becoming the version of himself who can break out of a high-security Fire Nation prison in a single night. Zuko and Iroh, though separated, are running parallel tracks. Both are preparing for the same moment, the moment when the war's climax arrives. And the preparation, for both of them, involves becoming more fully themselves. Iroh is becoming the Dragon of the West again, at least for one night. Zuko is becoming the person he has been trying to be since his adolescence, the person who does the right thing regardless of cost. The parallel is not accidental. The show is preparing both of them to converge. Moral trajectory. Iroh will break out. Zuko will defect. Both of them will arrive at the Jasmine Dragon in Ba Sing Se in the final episodes, and their parallel journeys will merge into a shared future. This is the shape of the ending, the day of the eclipse, the day of Black Sun, the day when Zuko confronts his father. This is the day everything turns, and the specific quality of the confrontation deserves one more pass. Zuko enters the throne room. Ozai is there. Ozai is in his full regalia, the flame crown on his head, the red robes, the fire in the wall behind him. Ozai is not scared. He knows the eclipse is coming. He knows he will lose his firebending briefly. He is prepared for it. He is waiting to see what Zuko will do. Zuko does not attack immediately. He talks. He lays out his case. He tells his father the things he has been afraid to say for his whole life. He says the Fire Nation has wronged the world. He says the war has destroyed families. He says his sister is cruel. He says his uncle was right. He says in effect that the entire framework of his upbringing has been wrong. And Ozai, at first, listens with a kind of amused patience. He is treating his son's speech as an adolescent outburst, an embarrassing emotional episode that will pass. But Zuko does not stop. He keeps talking. And slowly, as Ozai realizes that this is not a passing moment, that Zuko has fully committed to this new position, Ozai's demeanor shifts. He becomes harder, colder, meaner. He calls Zuko weak. He calls Zuko a failure. He invokes every insult that has been used against Zuko for his entire life. And Zuko, who would have been destroyed by these insults 6 months earlier, now receives them with composure. He has heard them before. They do not move him. He has been carrying them for so long that he has developed immunity. The eclipse begins. The lights outside dim. The world becomes strange. Ozai can no longer firebend. He knows this. He stalls. He tries to hold the conversation open to keep Zuko engaged, to prevent Zuko from leaving. And his final play is the cruelest possible one. He tells Zuko that his mother, Ursa, is alive. That she did not die. That she was banished. And that Ozai knows where she is. This is the emotional grenade, because Ursa's disappearance has haunted Zuko for almost a decade. He does not know what happened to her. He has been told variously that she died or that she fled. He has not known which, and now his father, the only person alive who knows the truth, is dangling the answer as a bribe. Come back, stay, be loyal, and I will tell you where your mother is. Zuko, in the moment, wobbles. You can see him wobble. The tension in his face. The way he has to stop himself from responding. The specific pain of being offered the thing he most wants by the person he is in the process of rejecting. The show holds on this moment because it wants you to see that the temptation is real. Ozai has found the single most powerful thing he could have offered, and Zuko has to turn it down. He does. He turns it down. He says essentially that he will find his mother on his own. He leaves the throne room. The eclipse ends. Ozai shoots lightning at him. Zuko redirects it. And he walks out into the courtyard, alone, in the daylight, as a traitor. This is the structural climax of Zuko's moral development. The moment where his father offers him the bribe that would have worked at any earlier point in his life. And Zuko walks away. The walking away is the proof. He has become someone who cannot be bought. Not even with the answer about his mother. Not even with everything he has ever wanted. He has moved past the version of himself that could be bought. And the version that remains, walking out into the daylight, is the version he will be for the rest of his life. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. Let us consider, for a final time, the full weight of what Zuko's redemption has meant for the broader culture. Because this arc, more than almost any other in 21st century animated television, has reshaped what audiences expect from redemption stories. Before Avatar, the dominant mode of redemption in American animation was the quick pivot. A villain is revealed to have a heart of gold. A few sympathetic scenes are shown. The villain joins the heroes. Everyone is happy. This model has the virtue of being simple and the defect of being unearned. The audience sees the change but does not feel it. The character transforms because the plot requires it, not because the character has paid the internal cost of transformation. Avatar broke this model. It showed that a redemption arc could be long, gradual, non-linear, painful, and still emotionally satisfying. It showed that the satisfaction did not require speed. It showed that the audience, given enough investment, could follow a character through years of mistakes and still be rooting for them at the end. And it showed, most importantly, that the mistakes themselves are part of what makes redemption meaningful. Without the mistakes, there is nothing to be redeemed from. With the mistakes, the redemption has weight. This lesson has been absorbed by countless subsequent shows. Steven Universe's redemption of Peridot and Lapis, and eventually the Diamonds. The Dragon Prince's redemption of Viren and of Claudia's arc. Avatar Studios' own continuation, which has begun to explore the adult Zuko in new animated projects. Each of these owes a structural debt to the template that Avatar established. The template is start bad, give the character multiple opportunities to choose, let them choose wrong sometimes, make them pay for the wrong choices, and eventually let them earn the right to be trusted again. It is a simple template in description. It is extraordinarily difficult to execute well, and Avatar executed it well enough that it became the standard. Zuko, in this sense, is not just a character. He is an argument. He is an argument about what redemption is, how it works, and what it takes. And the argument has been absorbed by a generation of viewers who grew up with the show, many of whom are now adults making their own creative work. The argument has propagated. It is in the water now. Redemption stories written in the last decade, across animation and beyond, bear the fingerprints of Zuko's arc. His path has become the path. His journey has become the map. This is a remarkable legacy for a children's cartoon character, and it is a legacy that was earned by the specific writing choices the creators made, episode by episode, across 3 seasons without shortcuts. They did the work. They paid the cost. They produced a character whose redemption actually moves the audience, because the redemption was built rather than declared. And the building is what we, as viewers, have been responding to for 2 decades. The building is why we remember him. The building is why, years after watching the show, we can still recite specific scenes from his arc. The building is why, when we meet difficult people in our own lives, some of us remember Zuko and try just a little harder to be patient, because we saw in Zuko what patience could produce. And we believe, because the show taught us to believe, that the patience might still work. That is what Zuko's redemption arc has given us. Not just a story, a template, a pattern, a way of thinking about how people change. And the pattern is still in use every day, in the way we read our own relationships, our own disappointments, our own struggles. Zuko is inside us now. His arc is a tool we carry, and we use it quietly whenever we have to, which is often. There is something worth saying about the specific time and place in which Zuko's arc unfolds. The show aired between 2005 and 2008. This was a specific cultural moment. American animated television was just beginning to experiment with serialized novelistic storytelling. Previous shows had done long arcs, but nothing of Avatar's density had been attempted for a Nickelodeon audience. The show took risks, and the risks paid off. And Zuko's arc is one of the clearest demonstrations of why those risks were worth taking. But consider what it meant for a child watching this show in real time. A 10-year-old in 2005 would be 13 or 14 by the time the Crossroads of Destiny aired. That child watched Zuko descend into the worst choice of his life while the child themselves was entering adolescence. The child felt, without being able to articulate it, that Zuko's struggle was somehow their own, because adolescence is the time when you start to be faced with the choice between the person your parents want you to be and the person you are starting to suspect you might actually be. Adolescence is when the gap between those two opens up for the first time. Adolescence is when the wrong choice starts to be tempting. Zuko's arc, spreading across 3 years of that child's life, modelled the struggle in real time. The child was not alone. Zuko was struggling too. Zuko was making the wrong choice. Zuko was paying for it. And Zuko was eventually finding his way back. And the child watching received a specific, irreducible message. Change takes time. Wrong choices are not final. The person you are becoming is not determined by the worst thing you have done. These are messages children need to hear. They are messages most children's media does not bother to deliver. Avatar delivered them. And for every child who received them, in the specific years when they most needed to hear them, the show became a kind of private scripture. Something carried into adulthood. This is why you will meet people, now in their late 20s and early 30s, who can tell you exactly where they were when they watched The Boiling Rock Part 2 for the first time. Who can still quote lines from Iroh's cell scene? Who remember the specific feeling of Zuko taking the lightning? These are not casual memories. These are formative memories. The show shaped the emotional vocabulary of a generation. And Zuko, specifically, shaped the way that generation thinks about failure and recovery. Let us also spend a moment on the way Zuko is drawn, because the visual design of the character is itself part of what makes the arc work. Zuko's face in the first season is sharp. His eyes are narrowed. His expression, most of the time, is either scowling or flat with suppressed rage. The animators have given him a specific silhouette, a tight top knot, a high-collared armour, a sharp shoulder line. He is meant to look like a weapon in the first season, a thing designed for cutting, not for holding. As the arc progresses, the design softens. His top knot becomes looser, his posture relaxes, his shoulders drop. In the second season, when he is on the run, his hair grows out. He eventually shaves his head during a particular episode, a symbolic gesture of release. In the third season, his hair is longer, less restrained. When he joins the heroes, he wears different clothes, simpler, more practical, less ornamented. The visual design is tracking the internal change. A viewer who pays attention to the drawings alone, ignoring dialogue, could follow the arc. Zuko becomes more human-shaped as he becomes more human acting. By the finale, Zuko's face has changed in a way that is difficult to articulate but easy to feel. His eyes are no longer narrowed. His mouth is not set in a scowl. He looks tired, often, but the tiredness has a different quality. It is the tiredness of a person who has been doing hard work, rather than the tiredness of a person who has been hunted. And when he smiles, in the final scenes, the smile reaches his eyes. This did not happen in the first season. In the first season, when Zuko smiled, the smile was on his mouth only, and the eyes stayed hard. By the end, the face has synchronized. The surface matches the interior, And the matching is a visual marker of integration. Animation allows this kind of tracking in a way live action does not. An actor cannot change their face over 3 years, but an animated character can, in the hands of careful designers. And the Avatar team took full advantage of the medium. They let Zuko's face become itself a record of his change. And every time we look at his face in the finale, we are seeing a drawing that reflects the cumulative weight of 3 seasons of choices. The face is his history, made visible. Let us finally return to the final tea shop scene. We have described it several times, but it bears one more reading. The war is over. Aang has defeated Ozai. Katara has defeated Azula. Toph has defeated the Earth Queen. Or whoever was in charge. Sokka and Suki have dealt with the airships. The world is broken, but beginning to heal. And Zuko, newly crowned Fire Lord, walks into the Jasmine Dragon. The tea shop is exactly as Iroh left it. The tables are clean. The lanterns are lit. Iroh is wearing an apron. He is pouring tea for customers. He looks up, sees Zuko, and walks over to a small table in the back. He sits down. He pours a cup for Zuko. He pours a cup for himself. They sit. They do not speak immediately. The show gives them silence. Iroh sips. Zuko sips. They look at each other. And the weight of everything they have been through, from the moment Iroh first followed his banished nephew out of the Fire Nation to this quiet afternoon in a tea shop after the war, is between them on the table. They do not have to name it. They know it. They have both been there. They have both earned the silence. Eventually they talk. Zuko expresses uncertainty about his ability to be Fire Lord. Iroh reassures him, not through flattery, but through perspective. He tells Zuko that the Fire Lord before him had one job, which was to fight a war. Zuko has a different job, which is to heal a world, and that job is harder. But Iroh says, without drama, that he knows Zuko will do it, because Zuko is his nephew, and because Zuko has already proven over the last months that he is capable of doing hard things. This is the validation Zuko has been waiting for his entire life, not from his father, from his uncle, from the person whose validation actually matters. And Zuko receiving it is quiet. He does not respond with a speech. He just nods. He drinks more tea, and the moment passes into the next moment, which is also quiet, which is also together, which is also the beginning of the rest of their lives. Iroh will come to the coronation. He will stand in the front row beaming. He will, after the ceremony, return to the tea shop, because that is where Iroh belongs. That is what Iroh is for. He is not going to be a political advisor. He is not going to be a figure of state. He is going to sell tea to strangers in Ba Sing Se for the rest of his life. And Zuko will visit as often as he can. And the visits will be the highlights of Zuko's reign, because Zuko now has what he never had before. A home, not a palace. A home, a small tea shop in a foreign city with an old man who loves him and who he loves. That is the home he spent his adolescence trying to return to, without knowing it. He thought the home was the Fire Nation Palace. It was not. The home was wherever Iroh was. The home was Iroh himself. And now finally, Zuko knows that. Now finally, he can rest. The final image of Zuko in the original series is him, in his new Fire Lord robes, visiting his father in prison, and demanding to know what happened to Ursa. This is his first political act, his first exercise of the power he has just acquired, and he uses it immediately to try to find his mother. The show ends before the search is resolved, but the search is beginning, and the search is itself a statement about who Zuko is going to be as Fire Lord. He is going to be the kind of ruler who uses his power to find missing people, who refuses to let unanswered questions stay unanswered, who carries the personal and the political at the same time, without apologizing for either. The comics will eventually resolve the search. Ursa is alive. Ursa is in a small Earth Kingdom town. Ursa has lost her memories. Ursa gets some of them back. The reunion is partial, imperfect, incomplete. Zuko's family is not fully restored, but enough of it is restored for him to live with it. His mother is no longer a ghost. She is a person again, in his life, complicated and flawed and real. That is what Zuko has built, through his whole arc. A life in which his ghosts become people again. A life in which the silences get filled. Slowly, one answered question at a time. This is what his redemption has given him. Not peace, not certainty. A life in which he is able to keep asking the right questions and to act on the answers. That is what adult moral agency looks like. Zuko, at the end of the series, is ready for it. He has earned it. And the rest of his life will be spent exercising it, day by day, in the specific ways his specific role allows. That is the complete arc. That is who Zuko becomes. A Fire Lord who searches for his missing mother. A nephew who visits his uncle's tea shop as often as he can. A husband eventually, to a girl who loved him through the worst version of himself. A father eventually, to a daughter named Izumi, who will one day inherit his throne. A man who carries 2 scars and wears them without apology. A man who, every time he chooses the harder right over the easier wrong, is enacting something he learned over 3 years of being his uncle's nephew. The enactment never ends. The arc is not a one-time event. It is a way of being. And Zuko, for the rest of his life, keeps being it. Let us close with one more thought about what Zuko's arc has cost him and what it has given him. Because the arithmetic of his life, at the end of the series, is worth considering. He has lost his father's love. But the father's love was a lie. So the loss is not a loss in the deep sense. He has lost something he never had. What he has gained is his uncle's love, which he did have but did not know how to receive. The trade is favourable. He has traded an illusion for a reality. He has lost the throne he thought he wanted. But the throne he wanted was the throne of the old Fire Nation, the imperial, war-making Fire Nation. That throne is gone now. It does not exist. What Zuko has instead is the throne of a new Fire Nation, one dedicated to healing and rebuilding. This is a different throne. It is the one he actually needed, and he has it. He has lost his sister, in a certain sense. Azula is in a mental institution. Their relationship, such as it is, will be fraught for the rest of their lives. But he never had a functional relationship with her. She was always a rival, a threat, a source of pain. The loss of that dynamic is not a loss. It is a release. And the possibility of rebuilding something with Azula, partial as it may be, is open to him in a way it was not before. He has lost his body's innocence. He has 2 burn scars now. The second one in his chest aches sometimes. He has lost sleep over both of them, but he has gained in exchange the knowledge that his body can withstand more than he thought it could. That he can take a strike meant for someone he loves and survive. That is a specific kind of strength. It is worth having. He has lost the version of himself who was the hunter. That version is gone. He cannot go back. He would not want to. What he has instead is the version of himself who is a teacher, a friend, a nephew, a partner, a Fire Lord. That version has more to do. That version has more relationships. That version, in every way, is larger than the version that has been lost. The final arithmetic, if we are honest, is this. Zuko has paid a specific price for his redemption. The price is the abandonment of everything his father taught him, and in exchange, he has received a specific gift. The gift is the life he was always supposed to have, before the war in his father and the scar interrupted it. That life, the one he was supposed to have, is waiting for him on the other side of his redemption, and he has finally arrived at it. That is the full story. That is what 3 seasons of patient, slow, painful character work has produced. A boy who was broken by his family. A boy who spent his adolescence failing to put himself back together. A boy who, with the help of an uncle who refused to give up on him, eventually figured out how to stop trying to fix the wrong things. A boy who walked out of his father's throne room and into the rest of his life. A boy who took lightning for the girl he loved. A boy who in the end became Fire Lord. A boy who in the end got to sit in a tea shop with his uncle, finally, and know that he was home. This is Zuko. This is his arc. This is what he became. And this is what he remains. For every viewer who has ever watched him, 20 years and counting, still teaching us, every time we watch him, what it means to be a person who chooses, again and again, the harder right over the easier wrong. If you enjoyed this video essay, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next.